My name is Dr. Rick Seguil.
And action. Hey, Jay's had a... This is Kirk to them.
Stress and coping.
And action. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick from Herbal 411. And Beata had a question about muscle. And she does some pretty decent work, more than the cardio that I could tolerate, but we're still having a problem with hitting the wall, and we're trying to maximize on or optimize on health and weight loss. But if this is the first time you're finding me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I do new videos. So muscle. I put down here the types of muscle we have. We have type 1, type 2A, and type B or type X. That's 2B, 2X. So there's different types of muscle. Muscle is, everybody thinks of muscle as just this mechanical thing that brings two bones together and helps with motility or mobility. And it does. Helps with balance, mobility, helps with eating, soft tissue muscle or the smooth muscle of the small intestine and the organs. It helps with taking care of growth, takes care of function, takes care of movement, and it also takes care of working to decrease serum glucose. Now, how does that work? So the muscle and the liver both hold glycogen, and just in case we need it for fight or flight. And that's why this muscle, which is really cool, it's the only organ where you don't need insulin for glucose to go from bloodstream into the cellular space or into the muscle. Every other organ system, short of the brain, needs insulin to transport it into the cell. The brain's a little different. Again, in crisis, it has to have a fail-safe. The same thing with muscle. So you have to have that with muscle because fight or flight, you have to run from danger or defend yourself. So you don't want to be waiting for hormones to kick in and for insulin to increase. Although those are fractions of a second, it still could be the difference between life and death. So that built-in mechanism is cool. You can store glycogen in muscle. Cool. Usually the liver will hold a little more glycogen than muscle will in total. Cool. But if you are practicing keto or if you're trying to decrease your overall insulin by going on a low glycemic index diet, by eating a carbohydrate-free or low diet, some of the keto guys and some of the carnivore guys will do no carbohydrate, no glucose. And I think there's a little bit of anecdotal validity to those practices. That's a carnivore. Keto, there's a lot of great information that's coming out, and I just don't do that. I do a little bit of it. I love the information, but it's too mind-boggling for me to think of that kind of practice for me. So the idea would be how else to drop your glucose levels. And one way to drop the glucose levels out of the bloodstream is whisk it away out of the bloodstream into the muscle. How do you do that? Exercise. So if we have muscle, and I guess this is a spoiler alert. If you have muscle that is very efficient, like your type 1s, and it's built to do long duration tasks like walking a marathon. So I got into hiking because I tried to run. I wanted to see what a yoga practitioner could do without training for the marathon, and I was able to do it, but I hit the wall at 13 miles and I just walked the rest because I couldn't get the pace and my muscles for running were off. And I hit the wall because I ran out of probably glycogen. So the idea was I could still get through with walking. So it's funny because I guess I'm the poster child for this same theory. When I walked, I'm okay. Even though I was probably low on glucose, I was a little bit dehydrated at the 13-mile mark, I still walked another 13 miles. But every time I attempted to say, I'm tired of this walking, I'm going to try to run it. Every time I attempted to increase or improve or speed up my gait, muscles would cramp up. And I would hit the wall because I just didn't have any energy in me. I would try to fuel up with every break of Gatorade, but it wasn't enough. And I probably should have trained, but I still made it. And then the next year I did this one, 10-10-10, for my mom who passed away. But the idea is you can be very efficient with these long-acting muscles, even walking 15,000 steps a day or riding a bike. Now, my cyclists who do 100 milers, they know to be very conservative. My marathoners are the Kenyans that come through. When I volunteer at the marathon, it's so awesome to see the lead Kenyans pass first out of the whole pack of, 47,000 people. You won't even hear the Kenyans moving by. You'll hardly hear a noise from their breath. You'll see that they're just moving effortlessly because they've been able to utilize as little muscle as possible to conserve on energy. And that's what the body does. So that's the spoiler, is when you do a lot of the cardiovascular type exercises or activities, biking, swimming, running, walking, hiking, you learn to adapt by using as little muscle as possible, and you become efficient with it. So just like metabolic flexibility between keto and paleo and vegetarian and whatever you're doing, your body becomes efficient at the task that's at hand. And when you're efficient, even more efficient than 6 months ago, you don't use or call in as much power or muscle to be contracted. When you're not calling it in, you're not actually burning fat anymore. That's what you need. You have to burn fat. Well, you have to burn glucose first, then you burn fat after that. That's the idea, right? You try to suck the fat out of the belly by burning that fuel source. But if the muscle gets efficient with what it's doing, it's not going to burn anything. So you haven't really won. You're just getting sore feet. So what you can do is you can put on a load. You can increase the intensity. You can increase the duration. You can do some resistance. And that's why I suggest, if you're a runner, or a cyclist or a swimmer, hit the type 2 fibers. These fibers exhaust pretty quickly. The type 1s will go forever. They have a lot of mitochondria. They're very bulletproof to fatigue. The type 2s are where you can pull in power. Type 2A has a little bit of long lastability, ever ready, but it also can pull on the power when necessary. The type 2X, also known as type 2Bs, that's purely power. So when you develop these two guys, then you can play around with the type of exercise you're doing and the way you're going to burn up all that extra fuel in the bloodstream. So again, metabolic flexibility is one thing. I did a video on that, but exercise flexibility is another. So if you're noticing that even with all the exercise you're doing, you're not getting any more gains, you might have to switch up your nutrition plan. So you might want to talk to me or a nutritionist. You might want to get some metrics as far as blood tests to see where we're holding where we're getting stuck, or how we can push the metabolics to jumpstart again with either nutrition or exercise. And you just have to be careful. I think that's where we get that muscle confusion theory. It's not really muscle confusion. I think the human body learns to adapt. So if it adapts, then you need a different overwhelming stimulus. That's why you have newfound soreness when you change your activities a little bit or vary your weightlifting program. So I am both, I love resistance training, but I also love the duration of a run or a hike or a yoga class for 2 hours. I think it's massively important to be flexible with all aspects. And that's why I try to challenge my 40 to 50-year-olds who are hitting the wall with trying something different. I mean, the typical, I just had a patient today, and she said her husband didn't know what to do. He borrowed one of her tapes, and he couldn't stop. He got so intensely into the tape, or DVD, sorry, that he threw up. He finished the DVD, but he threw up because he was committed. And that's cool, but we have to get out of the mindset that we can make it through with intense. You have to build up slowly, efficiently, get muscle to not be too sore, slowly get into it, and try, and push hard once you're adapted. And then once you maximize on, and you other guys, you guys that are doing nothing but resistance exercise, that's cool. You can probably lift me over your head, which I always hear. I had one guy in the immediate care center said, well, I can lift 3 of you. And I was wondering, why is he even saying he can lift 3 of me? He was probably intimidated by me. No. But even if you do a lot of this, if you're obese or if your body mass index or your DEXA scan is showing that you just have a ton of fat and good muscle but a ton of fat to go with it, you're still in harm's way for heart disease and diabetes. So try to develop this kind of cardiovascular fitness, because again, the more furnaces you have 1 furnace, that's cool. If you have 3 furnaces to burn that extra fat, that's even better. Again, the adaptability for exercise is so great. Whether you do the proprioceptive exercises of plyometrics or the burst activities of HIIT training and CrossFit, or the power activity of powerlifting, Olympic training, and bodybuilding, or you get into some cardiovascular fitness. I don't care what it is, but you have to have adaptability so that when it comes time to get past an injury or to tuck it in because you're reaching 70s and you have to find one thing you can do that won't hurt you, then you can back off, go into your 70s with a lightweight, not so much medicine because of high blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes, and then just drift away, be a servant to your great-great-grandchildren and not be a burden instead, and know which ones that you have been able to maximize on. So I think, Beata, you're in a better league than most of my other patients, but again, you're in the same problem of being stuck. Now, I will always be the bodybuilder, but I didn't think I would ever get to the point of doing a marathon or being a yoga practitioner. And now I'm a yoga teacher. I meditate. I still can't get away from my type 2 stimulation, but I love the type 1. So I think I'm ready for more. I just have to make sure that I'm well versed with it. So I'll have my challenges as I get into my 57 this year, as I have to get into my 60s. But for those of you who are still in your 30s and 40s, you get to the point where you can cruise along. You don't even have to be like me and worrying about what happens in the future or taking medicine. So Beata, hopefully this gives you a little idea. For the rest of you, if you have your own ways of turning on different muscle fibers, please put them down below. And otherwise, subscribe to me for my future videos. And if you have any comments and things you want to hear, post them down below.